Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Defense Sword group stage matchup between the 2-2 McBain and 2-1 nitzy. My name is CS Radical. We have Neobari on the zeros and ones on the restream, Xenocat on the tracker, and my co-host today, everybody's favorite trash can dweller, Possum Morpheus. How you doing this morning, I should say?
Oh, I'm doing great. I woke up, got to play around in a dumpster, found some goodies, and yeah, we're just ready to roll here. Excited to see this fantastic matchup between a bit of a surprise in nitzy at 2-1, and honestly a little underwhelming from McBain at 2-2, being a tournament favorite from a lot of folks' eyes based on ladder performance in prior tournaments. So we'll see if McBain can kind of right the ship, and if nitzy can keep the momentum going. A lot of great performances so far, and I'm excited to see if maybe we finally get to see some D-Machine with this Tella and a required Giant of Babel, y'all. I'm here for it. I might be the only one, but I'm here for it.
It does feel like something that would be right up your alley, so I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. So between these two runners, because you probably know a lot more about the two of them than I do, since I'm a very newer player. Before the records came in, like how different was the skill level between these two, presumably?
I don't think it's a matter of a difference of skill so much as a matter of a difference of amount of time played. Anyone who's been around for Enterprise for any amount of time has seen nitzy floating around in a variety of channels and is an old hat in the community. You know him, you love him. McBain is actually a newer runner than nitzy, but has put on a fantastic showing in many different tournaments, and is also a fearsome opponent who has been grinding the ladder for a while now. So it's one of those where you look at it and you would have to think McBain would have an advantage, but this flag set is playing into nitzy's skill set very well. Like I said, it's a little surprising where the results stand now, but it's not shocking. You have anyone who's been around for a while and you just pick up information and then you can apply it. And sometimes a flag set just hits what you're really good at. And I'm, for one, excited to see that. You know, a lot of success stories coming out of this tournament that we didn't expect going into it. And that's always great.
Yeah, and I mean, with this flag set as well, given our objectives, there's not really like a direction necessarily. I mean, yeah, there's 2 Darkness Crystal related quests, but everything else is pretty varied. I mean, Baron has got 2 as well, but it's kind of a little bit all over the place. There's not, unless like you get a really lucky chain here, it seems like it's going to be a very close to a full clear given how things are looking.
Yeah, I mean, we need underground access in some way, which is a key item. Baron, which is a key item, so that's 2 there. Zot, so Earth Crystal's 3, Sealed Cave is 4, Super Cannon's 5, 6 is Darkness Crystal. So realistically, there's not a ton of key items. Sometimes you see upwards of 9 or 10. But speaking of key items, we start with a package. There's some Grimoires, a Porum, a Tella, some Magus Sisters. It's interesting. That package would be something that you'd be inclined to do sooner than later. However, I don't know that this team can beat a boss at the package right now, so you might have to do some looting first. Maybe check some free key items over from Bedward. I'd be very concerned about actually defeating a 400 HP boss right now.
And that's saying something, but I mean, when you're looking at 2 mages, one of them who is a lot weaker and one of them who is really just there for exit spell for the first part of the game, yeah, it's not the best start.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love either a Tella or a Porum start. I actually think they're perfectly fine. Tella gives you exit, is the ultimate utility mage pre-Fusoya. Porum actually gives you very early access to Blink and Berserk, much earlier than Rosa, in fact. So they're both great characters early on, and speaking of great potential characters, a hook shows up from Bedward, so that gives us 2 gated character checks immediately, with exit to go get them. I'm quite liking this. From our runner's perspective, I would be very happy to have 2 gated character checks right off the bat.
Now, you hope that it actually ends up leading to something, because this could also be now a hook route, and if none of the gated characters are really that helpful, that's a bit of a worrying thing, but at this point, we are nowhere near considering that option yet.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who's floating around as well. The character on Hobbs will also tell us, if this is like an Edward, that's actually a benefit because it means that that gated character check is more likely to be a Foo, an Edge, a Cecil. Rosa actually, and this is going to be a bit of a hot take, Rosa is not who you wanted to see here. Rosa does literally nothing for this party right now. Is going to be great down the line, but I'm not taking a gauntlet to get a Rosa here. Not a chance in heck.
Not with this party, I wouldn't either.
But we do see Nitzy doing a little bit of shopping in Troya, going through and seeing if there's anything that he likes there. Not much yet, but we'll see how aggressively he goes after the package and the hook. Definitely playing a more conservative route on this. Going through and doing a little bit of early key item checking and character checking, whereas McBain is just diving in, not even concerned with the package, which, oh baby, that's a Cecil. I don't know if they can get through, but Demas burning down their own village, that's a little concerning. But you're going to want to try to get that Cecil anyway, because that's a Cecil, and Cecil's good.
Especially if you can find anything remotely decent, even if it's a defense sword, that's still pretty good for the time being. Obviously, you're hoping for a crystal sword as a drop, maybe even one of the bosses early on, which would just make this seed infinitely easier, especially if we got a hook route coming down the line. But for now, I mean, it is a physical damage character, but DKC is not going to help you nearly that much in this early going either. So, we got a Rosa who is not going to be that helpful. Cecil, for the time being, might not be that helpful either.
Well, if nothing else, Cecil is an extra body. And sometimes all you need early on are just bodies.
Well, look, it's the potential of a really good character coming down the line. Now you just really got to hope that hook-gated character is really going to help push you over now.
Yeah, and I think on Nitzy's side, we're very likely to see that hook character check as well, in addition to this package character check. This is actually a really nice boss for McBain to find early on. Cure 2s, Cure 1s, Fire 1s, all of which will do bonus damage to this Mylon since it is undead and it is weak to fire. So a very convenient find for McBain, who has done a little bit more of just the rush your key item checks route as opposed to the character checks. And one more Cure 2 and should be through here and already done with that Antlion Cave check. So very nicely done using those Cure 2s offensively by McBain.
Yeah, very fortunate one for him there. And the pass as the reward. So not a key item you would like to see, but at least it gets it out of the way that okay, I'm not going to have to do the long walk on the moon towards the end of the game.
Yeah, definitely a nice find. That pass will save time later. It does look like we are joined by a turtle in the Kaipo Inn, and the Grimoire fires a sylph, and that's going to be all she wrote for the turtle there. Goodbye, turtle. Nice to see you here and not, at the element spot on the giant where your waves would do 2,800 damage and ruin our day. But or a good hit there for Nitzy.
Or even in the hook route if it was a magma route that they just hadn't found yet, but looks like we're not having to think about that either. It always is nice to see. Turtle especially is the one that I'm very happy to see on the overworld, because that just tells me, okay, at least one of the most stressful fights in the game is going to be not on me today.
Yeah, absolutely. The turtle can cause fear for many a runner until you get really, really comfortable with damage racing the turtle. It's terrifying. So, and just the natural reaction is play it conservative and safe. There's a bedward, so second bedward, first bedward being in Troya, second bedward being in Kaipo. Unlikely that our runners ever decide to play ball with that Edward.
There's still a chance that we'll see a duplicated one.
There is, but I don't think our runners would want that. Chat would want that, but I don't think our runners would want that.
Well, yeah, but we're here for the people. We want that second Edward.
I mean, I guess we want third Edward. Well, that would be third Edward because we have Edward in bed, we have Edward in bed, and then we'd have Edward wherever else Edward would be.
If only you could change out the Yong sprite in the Sylph house. That would be great.
Oh, then we could have more Edwards. Just make everything Edward.
Is that an April Fool's joke? Is that coming?
Probably not.
That's a shame.
No one knows about the April Fool's jokes before they happen, except exactly Boardface, to my knowledge. So Maybe we'll
Well,
just get a bunch of edges show back up and invite us to the giant. Who knows? It'll be fine.
well, as my first April Fools in this community coming up shortly, I am looking forward to seeing whatever is going to be in that case.
I'm also excited for it. They're fantastic. I think we got vintage and then push B to jump, and there's been some other ones in there too, I think, but definitely good stuff. But we do see McBain here going through getting his Cecil as well, and looks like Nitzy going to go through and do that antlion cave check. So we should have a fair bit of parity here on key item checks. The biggest difference, of course, going to be that McBain does not yet have that hook from the free key item in Troya. So neither one of our runners opting to go after, at least Nitzy not opting to go after that hook route character right away. It's a little interesting for me, especially having exit available, because if that's a Fusoya, whew, I would want my hands on that Fusoya as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder if the thinking is, well, it's a hook route, so it's something that I'll check when I think I've got everything covered at this point. But yeah, I would probably be considering that option as well to be like, you know what? I really, especially with Ordeals coming, I'm like, man, if that's a foo and can really put me over the edge early to get that Cecil completely changed up, I would probably take a crack at that.
Yeah, and as chat's bringing up, even Palom would help get us there. Palom early on is great, but Palom is not a wonderful character long term. So has a lot of early viability, but doesn't do a ton later on. So it'd be interesting to see who that character is. That's kind of going to be the big thing for me watching this race proceed, is who dives that hook first. Because I think that's going to be a really important piece here.
Yeah, it really could make or break just how the rest of the seed unfolds for our runners, especially because I mean I can't imagine Baron Inn's going to do anything that's going to push them over the top. So it's really going to be whoever's in Eblin Cave to really tell us if it's going to be a bit more trouble than it's worth, or if it's going to be a much easier walk through the rest of the seed, at least to get to the underground.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're looking at it and you're wondering, where is my power spike going to come from? Obviously, turning Cecil into a paladin helps with that, but you got to get there. And so where does that initial power spike to really rush the overworld come in? And I think our runners need to be cognizant that you don't want to turn this into like a bracket level difficulty seed by struggling. So do you go and get maybe just shop for like a heroine robe and an elven bow for Porum on the hook route? Do you go and try to do some looting on that hook route, maybe Eblin Castle? There's a lot of ways to approach it, but like right now, this party has very little actual power.
Yeah, and as we saw earlier on Hobbs, Rosa doesn't really necessarily help you either. So that's why I think we're both sitting there thinking the same thing. Like, man, I need to check that Evelyn character stat just to see if that's going to really help.
Yeah, and for me, even more than the character might be those shops. But both of them are definitely going to be super important. And we do see McBain heading over there now. Are we going to get some looting in Eblin? Looks like we're just going to go down the Eblin Cave route instead of the Eblin Castle route for now. And a Sork Robe and Elixir, those are two nice finds right away. Also highlighting some of the T Wildish loot, where you're able to pick up a ton of really good stuff just laying around. So those are two very nice finds already.
As we see in the shop here, more elixirs if you wanted them. Obviously, I can afford them. Coffins as well. Tents if you're just looking for some early, just being able to kind of heal up a little bit more at save points before you really go ham on cabins for the rest of the seed. So not too bad a shop there either.
Yeah, definitely not too bad. Doesn't look like we're doing too much more looting on McBain's side over here. A little interesting because he is kind of cash strapped. Didn't peek the weapon or armor shop, so we'll see what becomes of that. But we did see tents that were there. I'm a big fan of tents, being that they're only 200 gold a piece. Absolutely love just buying a stack of 10 of them and using that as my camping gear. So we do now know that those coffins make this hook route free. Rydia also is an anchor, or if needed, can use some summons. But this is interesting. If there's a free boss at the King Queen Eblin spot, this could potentially be a very, very fast underground. So
And
between
just happening
coffins,
to find
between
that coffin in the
hourglass,
shop too.
yeah, the coffins in the shop and the hourglass from Antlion, there could be some easy pull here on that hook route.
Now, if you're one of these two runners, do you look at your party right now and decide to walk that right now? Maybe not, but
Probably not. I would want Cecil online. I would want Tella online because you're still going to get through the King Queen spot, which is oftentimes more difficult. So yeah, I think I would definitely want to route in the rest of the overworld checks here, but pick up some things along the way. McBain now does know where that trap is, so is going to clear out the rest of the loot down here, while Nitzy is giving us our first peek at Fabul, and that is just a Leviathan. The Ice 2s are going to be a little bit hurtful here, but this shouldn't be too bad a fight.
so it's really starting to seem at this point that Ordeals is going to be really the key here, because you're getting Cecil online. You're going to have Tella at least with some more spell variety to kind of help out there. There's a nice ribbon in the chest. That's nice to see as well. So it really is going to come down to how, are you going to be able to get yourself up early enough? And if you do get to that hook route, is that first fight before our free fights with the Dark Imps going to be a little bit easier, or is it just going to still be a bit of a struggle depending on the levels of our characters here?
Yeah, I think everything's going to be a struggle till Ordeals is done. Just the way that this is shaping up. So I think our runners need to be very careful in how they leverage their power. I do find it very interesting from McBain's perspective that he did not shop the weapon or armor shops in Eblin. I would be very curious as to why not peak for like a heroin robe. I know that it would be very expensive, and maybe he has the math done already that he just can't afford it without selling something like a Zeus Gauntlet, which you wouldn't sell. But I'm curious not checking that. I would always want to know that information, because things like heroin robes, things like elven bows, they just do so much work early on in a seed that I would really want that information personally.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, it would just be a matter of I'm coming back here. Maybe I'll check later and just kind of get my way through this part first. But yeah, I guess the information of it is really going to help too, because at least it gives you an idea of, am I going to be able to afford this? And if not, what am I looking forward to when I come back?
Yeah, it looks like we have, we might get some fun little Zerker strats here off of the Bonk staff for Porum. We'll see if McBain goes for any procs, maybe trying to Zerk up another character, or if he is just going to go through and just smash into this wall. It does look like we get a Sand Ruby from Fabul. Oh baby, that is, well, if you want an Edward, you can go get one. I don't think we're going to see the Sand Ruby turned in anytime soon.
What if the spoon happened to pop out of Ordeals here?
That would be different, because that would be a power spike. Spoonword actually is going to do quite a bit of damage compared to the rest of this party. For now.
So I imagine the entire chat is now collectively praying that either here or at Baron M we're going to see that, because everybody wants to see Edward. Edward needs to get out of that bed.
Yeah, Edward needs to get out of that bed and contribute to the fun here and the good times that are being had by all. Except for Evil. Evil Wall's having a bad time here, and that's honestly great to see. Evil Wall's an annoying boss, but this spot has the least physical attack in the game, I believe. So yeah, Tella hitting the 5% recall for weak, which is not going to work on Evil Wall, but good try, Tella. And Nitzy, meanwhile, did find a ninja sword just chilling in the back of Silvera. That could be a big deal if we find an edge anywhere around.
100%. Always happy to see a nice edge sword. Whether or not you find them or not, at least it's still something you can sell for a decent amount of change as well. But you're just looking at that and being like, all right, please just give me that edge so I can make this seed so much better.
Yep, and looks like Nitzy not going to do anything with that hook route, is going to play on Ordeals as well. does find an elixir in the Chocobo Forest, so a couple different elixirs just kind of floating around for our runners. Not super helpful right now, but definitely will be helpful later on.
I mean, that's 60,000 GP you don't got to spend already, so...
Also true. Sadly, elixirs don't sell for more than one, but you can buy them for 30.
I don't pretend to know how the market in this game work. It's some very weird margins I think they're making on there.
Very true. I will say this is an interesting thing on McBain's side. That Porum got hit with just about every counter Petrify, and unfortunately is not going to get the levels here, so that Porum going to miss out on Berserk, which probably isn't a concern, but you really would like to have Berserk earlier, if possible. That's kind of one of the benefits of Porum. So missing out on those 3 levels is going to hurt a little bit, but nothing that McBain can't overcome.
No, and you still have fights like Fabul to get that experience up as well, so there's still plenty of opportunities to get Porum that Berserk before you have to go into anything really too serious as we get further down the line.
Speaking of things that are serious, this is not the boss you want to see when Dancing Dagger is your primary damage. Ogopogo will counter Dancing Dagger. Uses a Grimoire, hits Odin. That is objectively the worst possible summon that could have come out there, because Odin can never work on Ogopogo. We might just see some Ogopogo Grimoire save scumming here, and just have McBain basically throw the Grimoire, and if it's not like Leviathan or Bahamut, reset. And do this until he's through.
Well, given our party setup, I don't know what else you really do. I mean, from my end, I'm looking at this being like, I would have just walked away, but you almost can't.
I mean, you hold A. You're just really sad about it. Like, really, really sad. Yeah, Mist is also not what you want. It's going to do like 400 damage. Nope, I'm sorry, 177.
Not even close to that.
I mean, so what's our count? 1 Odin, 1 Mist. What else?
Are we going to have to start keeping track now?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to get a running scoreboard going. We do see Nitzy getting a heal off on Tella to not have Tella perish on his side. So we'll see if Nitzy's able to have any better luck with this Evil Wall. Doesn't have the Dancing Dagger Rydia, which is going to slow things down. And we'll see if there's a Grimoire left for Nitzy. Looks like McBain is just going to keep giving this Grimoire a shot, and there's an Ifrit that's like 600 damage, so that's a thing. But really not what you want. Yeah, that's kind of rough.
And especially in the back attack spot where you really can't even get a good start to the match too. You're already starting at least half your health down before you even get the first prompt in, so it's really a struggling fight to get going with.
Yeah, I think this is just going to have to be you have a black sword, you smack with the black sword, you have a dancing dagger, you use the dancing dagger, and just deal with the counters. Like, I just don't think there's a better way through it. It stinks. It's a tough fight to manage. Again, McBain will get through it, but he was hoping for better Grimoire results there to make it a little bit better.
Really entertaining when you're thinking, man, thank God for the black sword.
Well, right now the issue for McBain actually is that Tella just went down by 2 health, which means a double wave is incoming, and I think Porum will be the only one. No, Porum and Rydia will survive here, but this is a little bit rough. I'm not sure if the Dancing Dagger path through here can work. At this point, gonna have to do a lot of recovery here to get back on his feet.
And the same thing happening to Porum on the other end, getting knocked out. But I think Porum may have Berserk on this one, on a Nitzy side.
Nope, it's 3 levels shy, I believe. I think it's level 18 for Berserk. So
in both cases, yeah, the Porum being down, like probably Berserking Cecil could have made this fight a little bit more doable if the Grimoires weren't working out.
Yeah, we'll see how Nitzy reacts to this fight. If Nitzy has any Grimoires left, maybe get some better rolls. It's just not a fun fight. Like, this is the type of fight where you have to do this to get Tella and Cecil online. The problem is you just don't have the right resources to do it. And our runners are in a tricky spot for Adamant Cup flags. This is just not a fun place to be. Normally these are power overwhelming seeds, not power underwhelming.
Yeah, this is definitely a seed as a newer runner that I'd be looking at and just already sweating buckets at this point, because this is looking real rough to start.
Yeah, Nitzy's Porum took exact damage there. That was pretty rude of Ogopogo. Nitzy says, the grass is greener elsewhere. I am out of here. Maybe go find some vampires, buy a stack of vampires, and just brute force your way through. It's expensive, but it's a solution. Meanwhile, McBain still going to war with this Ogopogo, has restabilized from that near wipe earlier, and gotta be getting close.
And we finally get a peek on what's going on at Baron Inn, so we'll see if there's any help coming there.
Yeah, even like an edge would be huge here. Especially given that ninja sword and full moon that Nitzy has. Oh, Todd still smells. That is a Palom. So that's a big deal in a sense. Looks like Nitzy gonna leave, not wanting that Palom, or at least wanting a little more loot, while McBain is through the Ogopogo. So that Palom opens up Twin. Twin does not get countered by Ogopogo. So that could be a way through, and could end up being a nice boon for Nitzy to make some of that time back up from the rudeness that is Ogopogo. But McBain is going to be the first of our runners to get the Cecil online, and more importantly, the Tella online right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, at least with Palom 2 in the early levels, getting a couple of tier 2 spells doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, and let's see what this key item is going to be. Do our runners get a sense of direction or a sense of fear? Well, if you ever wanted a chance to have a D machine and go take out the giant right now, how about a freshly stocked Tella with a darkness crystal at the 25-minute mark? With a hook route? Ooh.
I can just sense the massive grin on your face right now.
Yep. Cheese and big over here. Fun fact about Odin in this location, Xanthetsuken, for no reason at all, does almost 1600 damage at this spot. Ask me how I know.
I don't think I need to. I think I know the answer already now.
Looks like Nitzy is going to play the Eblin lottery. I don't hate it. Get some early levels, leverage that hourglass that was found. Or just have your hourglass user just get bopped and fall over, and that's not great.
I feel like that wasn't part of the strategy. It might have been a bit of a turnaround.
But yeah, we do... And we do see Nitzy heading down the hook route now. At least going to peek the character, check the shops. Looks like has quite a bit to sell off now as well. Some silver gear, some diamond gear, some black gear. All of which makes for good money. Just going to get rid of that. We'll see if we get some tent pickups here, maybe a shop check as well. And I wonder if on McBain's side we get an Eblin check and try to spike something shiny for that Cecil. Or if it's going to be a Darkness Crystal Peak, maybe looking for a Fusoya as well.
Yeah, you get an early check on that free character. You usually take a good crack at it. Given the way the party's been structured too, it almost seems like a really good call to do too, because if you end up getting, especially like we saw earlier with that ninja sword at Silvera, although McBain hasn't checked that one, but even getting an edge without any of that stuff is still a decent pickup, and like you said, a Fusoya as well. So plenty of options there. You hope for something to really put this party over the edge, but for now, you know, it's not it's not terrible, and you're still holding up for your D machine grind as well. So plenty of opportunities here.
Yeah, it is interesting. This is kind of the party setup that you would look to do an early grind with, because you'll have access to Rydia, to Palom, and to Portmer. So you would have access to 3 characters that really benefit from all of those levels. It would mean that you'd probably be out of Cecil. So I do wonder if you would see something in the line of maybe an Eblin check to hit a crystal sword or something like that. And if you come up blank on that, then maybe go ahead and do that D machine. But it might be a situation where you try to find a holy sword first. We do see some Ether 2s being purchased for McBain though, which means that it is likely a D machine grind could be on his mind.
The grin just keeps getting wider.
Look, some people are fans of it, some people hate it. I think you got to do whatever you need to do to finish a seed.
And again, like you said earlier, Giant is a quest you have to do. So if you end up getting a pretty hell of a level setup and you get an objective done, you're taking it.
Yeah, this is, again, if the Giant of Babel was not an objective, I don't think D Machine would even be a consideration here. That's the big part of why objective number 6 plays into this so much, is it guides you there. And if you're already being guided there, why not take advantage of it? That's kind of how I look at it. And it doesn't have to be a full D Machine grind. You can just get 40 levels off of like 4 or 5 D Machines with life glitches and just carry on. It would be very short, very sweet, do some zerking. Or you can pick up a Fusoya, and now you can just go blow up the seed. So that is a huge advantage for McBain, having that earlier Darkness Crystal, and much to chat's amusement and relief for chat, this probably ends any sort of thought of a D Machine grind.
Well, at least one person's probably upset about this now.
It's okay. I'll find the best dumpster juices possible at the bottom of this here trash can. I'll get over it.
Oh, and speaking of getting over it, really long Staleman fight going here on Nitzy's side. Really just... I wonder what he's hoping for to come out of this trap then. Or unless it's just really the experience that he's looking for.
Yeah, tough to say, because these are only 4,200 experience total, so it's more likely just, here's something I can beat, and let me take a moment to think about what I want to do with this seed. Because it has not played out like your typical Adamant Cup seed. There's been a lot of work to be done to actually get to a place where the party is comfortable. So maybe Nitzy is using this as time to kind of formulate a plan. I know I have done that myself, where I'll do something that's seemingly weird or different, or like not exiting from somewhere you can clearly exit from, because I want that time to think, and maybe the Staleman fight represents that opportunity.
Yeah, and as we see now, McBain going through that Baron Inn, getting the early Yong as your opponent. Now you get to see what the real fight's going to be in. Oh, hi, Freebie.
Air quote, real fight.
Oh, we were talking earlier about how Baron Inn could be pretty tough with that early party. Not so much now, is it?
Turns out Baron Inn was free all along.
So it seems that as this seed is going on, unless that Queen Eblin fight is rough, which I think on McBain's side probably isn't going to be the case now, but considering how we were all sitting here looking at the seed thinking, man, this is a real rough thing, Baron Inn's been basically free, and it's very possible that so will the hook route.
Well, and for things you don't get to see on a daily basis, the hourglass wore off on the Staleman. That is not good for Nitzy, and there is a very unfortunate and long wipe. So Nitzy, very much so behind the 8-ball now, needs to really rein this back in, try to stay off tilt, keep playing your game. Don't get flustered. Definitely not the start Nitzy wanted, but I have faith he can bring this back. And looks like McBain is going to play the Eblin lottery. Fusoya is great. Fusoya is a wonderful force multiplier, a huge power spike, however you want to phrase it. But there ain't no thing in Free Enterprise like a Crystal Sword Cecil. That is the goal here for McBain. He is fishing for the ultimate goods, and we will see if he comes up successful or not on these.
Well, we did see at least some more goods for a potential edge down the line, seeing a Murasame in one of those chests.
Yeah, Edge is going to be online and then some once found. Looks like we're getting a stone attempt here. Let's see if McBain's Fusoya is better than mine. Certainly is. Hits that stone, no issue. Easy peasy. And yeah, McBain threw that trap chest and is rewarded with an X-Scout. It's not a crystal sword, but I guess it'll do in a pinch.
Yeah, I suppose I would take that. So moments ago, we were all fretting over how this seed was starting to run, and in less than 5 minutes, we've gone from that to, oh wow, this is going to be a lot easier now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of those things that it's very snowbally. So McBain leveraged a lot of very good game knowledge and picking up that extra character as well to help him get through ordeals. Now you're seeing him be able to reap the benefits of those decisions. Being able to clear out this Eblin Castle, being able to go to the moon and pick up that Fu, obviously having Tella and Cecil online. All of this is snowballing off of the decisions that were made early and the capability of getting through ordeals where Nitzy, given his situation, was unable to. So kind of that snowball effect of some good decisions and some good gameplay from McBain, showing you why he was considered by some to be in the running for not just his group, but as a tournament favorite.
And speaking to the snowballing, it really does. No matter how bad a seed looks, all it takes is one chain and everything can just snowball right back into your favor again, and that's exactly what we've seen here.
Well, I guess Excalibur is nice, but what if the next chest just happened to have a crystal sword?
Well, that would be a bit of an improvement too, I guess.
It seems like everything now is coming to McBain. This is also why you love to do the Eblin fishing expedition, is you just have a good chance to hit this stuff. Let's see, can we go 3 for 3? We cannot. Just, I say just as if it's a disappointment, a Zeus gauntlet.
If only there was a crystal upgrade. Just go 3 tiers over those 3 chests.
The Lightbringer.
So now we're going to go onto that hook route. You would have to imagine that this is basically free now.
I'm trying to think of what could stymie this party. I guess DKC would... Fu just kind of solos that. Evil Wall's been seen.
I mean, Golbez could put a Nyx to something, but I think he has at least one ribbon.
Well, it can't be Golbez. Can't block the only source of underground access.
That's true.
Yeah. I think DKC would be the rudest at King Queen Eblin, but I honestly don't even think it would be that rude for this party. A single Cure 3 or Elixir, which our runners have found, Fusoya gets through that, and it's not really a concern. So, yeah, I think the runners are going to be pretty comfortable going down this hook route. I just don't think there's anything that's going to be able to stop them. So I think we got a good half an hour of challenge, but I think the challenge is going to be largely removed. And then it's just going to be a matter of efficiency from here on out. And I Can nitzy be efficient enough to catch up to McBain once he gets online? And that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, at this point now, like you said, in efficiencies, really the big thing you're looking to do is find some sort of replacement for Tella, unless you're just maybe looking for an anchor towards the end of the game. But I mean, if you come across an edge, or even in some crazy format, you find a duplicate of something you really want. I don't know, Cecil, having a Crystal and Excalibur Cecil would be interesting, but at this point, you're already happy with the two that you got, and you just kind of work with it as you go.
Yeah, I would definitely be leaning towards finding a second Zerker instead of a Palom here. Meanwhile, this guy does get that Excalibur. But yeah, it's going to be a situation where the longer nitzy doesn't get through Ordeals and get that Paladin online, the bigger this gap grows. So I'm hoping nitzy is able to get through sooner than later. And looks like we are going to get another attempt at Ordeals here. And an Asura from McBain. Asura is annoying, but not going to present a problem for this party.
And depending on the number of Veils that McBain has, can make this fight basically even lacking attacks too. But no, just going straight for violence. I suppose Crystal Sword makes that viable.
Yeah, Crystal Sword makes most things viable. Is it difficult? I don't know. Can you hit it with a stick? Yes.
It's a pretty shiny stick, too.
The shiniest, in fact. I guess the spoon is technically shinier, since it just sets the attack power to 255, but yeah. The Crystal Sword is not far behind. Asura, not long for this world, has been dispatched, and on to the Dark Imps. Was that nuke on Fusoya as well already? I swear I saw nuke there.
I did not catch it either. Xenocat saying yes, so...
Yeah, that's just silly. That's a pretty early nuke too, all things considered. That's a 1300 HP nuke. Yeah, that's a good place to be in, for sure.
Well, we have two pre-made coffins already built. Oh no, there's still another one in the inventory. Never mind. All three of them are just going to have a very, very swift death here.
Yeah, this is not going to be a good day for the Dark Imps, but we knew this going into it. The coffins were available for sale in Eblin, and especially after seeing the boss, even if you hadn't bought them the first time, you certainly would buy them the second time. So, no issues at all for McBain. Very quickly going to dispatch of them, and done with the hook route bosses, sub 40 minutes, which given the start, not too bad. So, figure right around 40 minutes for McBain. We'll see what time nitzy gets underground as well once they do get there. Or if nitzy may say, I am behind. I don't feel great about how this has gone. Maybe nitzy just makes the dive, gets through this, gets the Darkness Crystal, and says it's time to gamble. That'll be interesting to see as well.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting possibility. You see a seed like this and your thinking is, okay, I know this is a struggle. Is my opponent struggling as well, or has my opponent figured a way through? And if so, how far does that mean I'm behind if I keep going down the same path I intended to? So you're right, a gamble might be in the cards, but I guess it depends on what nitzy thinks he can handle going onto the moon and wanting to take those gambles. I don't think nitzy has checked Baron in yet either, so not knowing that one of the free fights is already off the table too.
Well, nitzy peeked the character, saw that it was a Palom and a Karate Man as the first boss, but does not know that it is King Queen Eblin at the second spot. So you are correct on that. And we do see McBain opting for Dwarf Castle. Given the sheer volume of key items that we still need, any check is a good check at this point. And this could also be an edge, and that would pretty much finalize this party. Even a Kane would be worth considering over Palom. So I don't dislike this check at all. I think this is a good check from McBain's side.
Yeah, and while you don't have weapons necessarily yet for Kane that are nearly as good as, a nice big burst sword, white spears seem to happen a little bit more often in these seeds than you would think. So it is very possible you could find his best weapon along the way anyways.
Yeah, defense swords, dragoon spears, white spears, all of those things readily available, much more than you would normally think, and pretty easy to come across, all things considered. Nitzy getting bodied a bit still by this Ogopogo is down to just a Rydia and a Porum here. I would like to see, if possible, for Nitzy to get this Cecil up and just get him zerked. Maybe be able to pull through a couple of Darkness Sword hits. But meanwhile, we have a Sparkle on McBain's side at Dwarf 1. If this is exactly Wyvern, it could be a little sketchy if your reflexes aren't good. It is Plague, though, so this is functionally free. Going to be a little bit of microwaved eyeball here, which I have to assume tastes terrible. But for McBain, it's going to be sweet, sweet victory.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think that count was for the Doom spell. I think that was for the nuke that's about to destroy this plague.
Yeah, I think that was a microwave counting down to beeping, and we all know we stopped that at 1 anyway, or a couple seconds before, because no one has time for that beeping.
So we'll see that character check. Like you said earlier, Edge would be a fantastic find here.
Yeah, Edge, Kane, dupe Cecil, dupe Fu, all of which would be very good pickups here. A Dark Elf that's going to have a terrible day to a Crystal Sword Cecil. And there's that Edge. This is an endgame party here. Palom is out, I would assume. Oh, wow, okay. So we're going to go anchorless, at least for right now. I'm going to keep the Palom around. But this is minimum 3/4 of an endgame party with Cecil, Edge, and Fu. And then Palom is still a flex slot. Probably not going back for the Rosa, but definitely interested to see what the choices and what the end result for this party is.
Yeah, we really weren't kidding earlier when we talked about just how the C could snowball. This went from an absolute struggle to, good lord, you're getting everything all at once now.
Mm-hmm. That's also why the decision to go to Dwarf, I think, is a very justified one instead of going like Feymarch, as it's a character check and it is a key item check. Maybe you hit a pan, maybe you hit a tower key, can route those both in as well before leaving the underground. So it's sound on a number of levels. Dwarf Castle obviously not going to be an objective, but it has a lot of other perks and very viable choice here.
Yeah, and at the same time, too, if you end up deciding one of the bosses down in the Feymarch end up being something you want to tackle, well, your party is even better already equipped for that, so you're in a good shape just to go after it.
Yeah, definitely like it. And his chat brings up 2 more bosses for Fusoya. That's 6 more spells. And a spoon, so there is a decision for McBain to make. If he's a Spoonward fan, maybe Palom is out, you go Tri-Zerker plus a Fusoya, and just have power overwhelming with Zerks. Remains to be seen, but that Edward is a possibility now.
Although I don't believe he's gotten the Samurai out of Fabul yet, so it's not in the cards just yet, it seems.
Well, that's a good point. But could be once back on the overworld, so we shall see what McBain opts to do there.
And just seeing how the sea is developed, now you're just really pulling for Nitzy to get out of this and finally gets through that Ogopogo. So Nitzy, depending on what he decides to do, if he goes for the gamble, maybe he goes to the moon at some point, or if it goes on the same route, at least we'll get to see Nitzy just breathe that massive sigh of relief when just everything starts to fall into place.
Yeah, definitely very happy to see Nitzy get through this. It's a wonder what a couple levels can do. And is going to have that Excalibur as well for Cecil. So Nitzy will be down likely a Crystal Sword, because I don't think he took more than just that 1 trap chest. So probably not going to head back to Eblin, having already gotten the Excal. So is going to be playing a little bit behind on equipment, but with the right decisions and the right execution, could definitely make up some ground here. That Dwarf Castle, for example, we now know not required. You don't need a spoon for anything. It's a nice dart, it's a nice toy for Edward, but not required. So there's a potential fade and some time that can be made up there. So we'll see how nitzy opts to route this.
Yeah, despite what it may look for people seeing this race, this isn't necessarily over yet. McBain, yes, is in quite the driver's seat given what he's running, but if he keeps going in different directions that doesn't lead him to anything, and nitzy happens to just take a different route that works in his favor, this can turn around. Oh, hi, Avenger at the freebie, by the way.
That's probably really bad for nitzy, though. Because now you don't need a white mage, you don't need Bacchus, now you have Crystal Sword Avenger Cecil. Yeah, McBain has everything he needs to win the seed now. And nitzy is very much so on a clock. The Crystal Sword is nice, the Fusoya is nice, the Edge is great. That Avenger means Cecil doesn't need a Rose. He is his own power couple now.
So now maybe do you keep that Palom if you get enough levels, maybe even have a nuke there, so you're just absolutely firebombing Z at the end? Unless maybe you find a dupe later on that helps.
Well, I tell you what I'm not doing, and that's this Fey March. That's Baigan at Leviathan and Antlion at Asura. No. Be back, maybe, possibly, likely never. That's a last location Fey March there. Those are two bosses that are gross. Obviously, Crystal Sword Avenger Cecil does work, but no. Not
it's
right
still
now.
a lot of damage.
Yeah,
and as someone who took on Baigan last night in my race with still a really high level party, that fight, even with a lot of equipment and some really good levels, is still a nightmare to go through.
Yeah, that's still 3 punches at like 176 attack for that spot, which is the highest in the game. Something like that. It's a lot, y'all. That spot hits really flippin' hard, and you don't want anything to do with it. So I do not blame McBain at all for getting out of there and seeking greener pastures.
Yeah, it really is the kind of fight that you go, okay, I need at least one person with Adamant armor before I'm even like remotely comfortable with this fight.
And to go back to a question that you kind of had about Palom and replacing and who do you take and do you get Palom to nuke, I think with the Avenger pickup, that would very much so drive me to want to have a dedicated anchor, Fusoya for white and black magic, and Kane, an Edge as a secondary Zerker, and just make that my party. Because Crystal Sword Avenger Cecil is all the DPS you need for everything in the game. Edge would give you a secondary Zerker for Zeromus, the best secondary Zerker, other than maybe Spoonward, but Spoonward is quite a bit more fragile. Fusoya for all the magic needs, and an anchor to keep your turn parity. I think that's a very strong setup given how good this Cecil is going to be. It's a little bit safer, but you never know what's on the Giant. Throw a Wyvern at the element spot, and without good anchoring, you're basically soft locked because it has 89 agility. So it's tough.
It's funny you say that. Guess what my second boss was last night?
No, I mean, Wyvern statistically is going to show up somewhere.
Well, speaking of Spoonward, we're about to see that Sand Ruby, and if McBain remembers that who's in bed there.
I assume he will remember who's there. It's just a matter of does he want the Edward. And we do see nitzy picking up their Legend Sword. So key items, relatively even minus the Spoon. That is a Twin Harp, however, for McBain. So our runners are doing a great job of playing dodge that required key item right now. But in McBain's shoes, you have just completed Fabul Defense, which means you just got a free heal, which means doing Twin Harp now is super awkward because you got to wait through a lot of cutscenes. I wonder if McBain was still at 1 HP on his team if he goes Twin Harp there, but I think we are going to get a little bit of a Moon Expedition here for McBain. And with a Crystal Sword Avenger Cecil, I can definitely understand that.
What, you got a full heal, you wouldn't take on that Baigan fight?
That's a good point. The Baigan fight is an option. No. I would go to the moon before taking on Baigan at Leviathan.
Well, and as we said earlier, nitzy getting through that Baron in, that means the bad news has come to nitzy too, that that free fight in King Queen Eblin is off the table. So seems like the plan is just to do exactly what you were planning on doing in the first place. And looks like no gambles in the future here, which just means a lot of catching up now.
Yeah, Asura is on the table. Asura will not be too much of an issue, but looks like we are getting some inventory management from Nitzy. The big difference as well here, Nitzy picked up that Darkness Crystal, did not go and play fetch with the character. So Nitzy is not going to have that Fusoya for this Hook Rat or the early Underground. And that could be a huge deal as well. So it looks like Nitzy's going to play this fairly close to the vest, which is a little surprising, given that the struggles on Ordeals were so in your face on the seed. I'm surprised that we're getting this kind of close to the vest play from Nitzy here. It seems very defensive.
Also, doing that Steelman chest, maybe for the loot, but I think also for a bit of vengeance at this point.
Oh, for sure. This is one of those where it's like, yeah, you got me, but I'm back now. And I'm going to do bad things to you. And yeah, these X-Scal's going to rip through these Steelmen. But maybe this is like an Adamant Armor or something, which could help Nitzy catch up. It does look like we have Octomam on McBain's side, and Octomam is kind of a natural counter to Crystal Sword, as Octomam is resistant to Holy, but Cecil's still doing a ton of damage there, and we will see if McBain opts to resurrect anyone, and of course I managed to miss the treasure there. I hope it was good.
And also, Fu could just cast a nice lit 3 and just make it fun. Or I guess a nuke's just fine.
Microwave Squid. So we got Microwave Eyeball, Microwave Squid. I don't think I want any of those things microwaved. Yeah, no, they just seem like they'd be way too squishy and icky.
I mean, I'm not a seafood fan to begin with, so you can prepare that Octomam as however you want. I don't think I'm eating still.
Fair enough. I am definitely a seafood fan, so yeah. I will happily take maybe a Fire 3 Octomam, but definitely not a nuke Octomam.
Well, you can enjoy your share of this Final Fantasy IV takoyaki, so enjoy.
And so let's see how Nitzy handles this Asura fight. Is running roughly about 15 minutes behind McBain right now, getting to Asura. So we shall see if there's anything like a cheeky early Feymarch play, a keyless tower, something more off the beaten path to try to make up some of this potential time. A Pinktail on the moon is not going to help Nitzy's cause. That opens up a second potential Adamant Armor. Excuse me, no, a first Adamant Armor. We have not seen one yet. I wonder if an Adamant Armor is enough impetus to leave the moon, pick that up, and then just have Crystal Sword Avenger Adamant Cecil just roll on through. We'll see if that decision is made by McBain or not, but it looks like he says, I'm going to the bottom of the moon. Heck that Adamant Armor.
You're probably thinking too, like having Avenger, you're in pretty good shape to just absolutely just swing damage left and right at whatever you walk into. So maybe thinking, yeah, I could get this Adamant Armor right now and make this completely over the edge, but I think I'm already in a good spot. I would have probably considered it, but that's also because I'm a newer player and would just like as much power overwhelming as I can get, but it seems in this case that's the call.
I also would have gone and gotten it, but that's because I'm a wimp and I like to make things as easy as possible and not have to try hard. So Adamant Armor just makes things, and I like easy. So I'm with you there for a totally different reason.
Look, normal mode is fun, but have you tried easy mode? And if you get enough Adamant Armors, it can even be more like story mode at that point.
Sounds good to me. Sign me up. We do see Nitzy going with a nice little strat here on Asura. Double Star Veil to make sure a wall goes up on Asura. This will allow it so that the Cure 4s, Cure 3s all bounce to your party and allow you to get through fairly quickly.
And not to mention any spells you cast aren't going to get countered either, so if you really want to throw something extra in there, it makes it even faster.
Definitely true. I would like to see Cecil in the back row for Nitzy, just to absorb some of the punishment, especially while zerking here, because you do run the risk of Cecil getting bopped, as that did happen there. And having Cecil in the back row, maybe getting some blinks up on people, could certainly help Nitzy's cause here to make this a little faster.
McBain, in the meantime, checking out the ribbon room, finding Mylon and friends.
Resets out may have left the Avenger on. Yeah, that's the reason for the reset. I was wondering, there couldn't really be another logical reason to reset that fight, so makes a lot of sense to reset. It's going to take way more time to go through 42,000 HP there than it will with the Avenger on, as opposed to swapping over an Avenger glitching the Crystal Sword.
And now Nitzy finally getting the good news and getting to get through what ended up being a much longer underground route than I think he would have intended. But with the coffins, this is now nearly done, and it's time to finally get the show on the road.
Yeah, so Nitzy going to be somewhere around about 18 minutes behind, somewhere in there. But we will see if he's able to make some headway underground. Maybe take on that antlion, maybe take on Helix Tower, something like that. And see how he routes from here and see if there's any ground that can be made up. If that Fey March, for example, has all the goods, and Nitzy does the Fey March, this race ain't over yet, because that moon could be one big diversion. Yes, the Pigtail's up there, and that means an Adamant Armor's on the table, but if there's no required key items up here, advantage could swing back, even in a race that does appear to have gone to one of the runners so far.
Yeah, and as the sea goes forward, you know, we'll watch on McBain's side, especially the longer that this goes, and if all the things that he's grabbing are what you need, it just keeps increasing that gap to points where it just may become difficult to come back from. But in Nitzy's case, like you said, if you know, he decides to take an alternate route, all of a sudden the odd item that just kind of comes through and takes you on a chain, like if you find Baron Key, say at top of tower, and you're suddenly got 2 more quests in front of you, because if you don't find that tower key anytime soon, maybe McBain doesn't go for it. So there are some potentials to make this suddenly really open up again. But as we stand, especially having a Fu, an Avenger with Crystal Sword, like if Nitzy takes similar steps to McBain, it's just going to increase that gap further, because McBain's just going to do this so much faster with the equipment he's running.
Yeah, it's one of those where McBain has found those power spikes. Nitzy finally got that one power spike with the Cecil, but is behind that Fu, is behind that edge, at least for now. Fusoya now at full power. Stardust Rod and Adamant Rock, those are 2 things that are not required in any way. So again, that is good for Nitzy. Right now, the moon is not paying off except in nice shiny items. And shiny items are not what McBain needs. The Forge is irrelevant. The Pigtail, functionally irrelevant. Like, it's great. It's an Adamant Armor. But what does it do for quest progression? And you start to get very nervous the more of these checks you make on the moon that come up blank. Because then you are playing catch-up. If there's no Baron Key, especially on this moon, you start to get a little panicky. Speaking of a little panicky, something is going to have to be done here on this fight to keep people alive. I think that Cure 3 should be good. Yeah, Fu probably doesn't die here. Okay, yeah, so Fu lives, is able to get a life spell off, and McBain has just enough health and resources to get through this. Also gets some extra levels on Edge. Figures probably Cecil is going to live through enough things and be powerful enough. Let's get some health on that Edge. And see if there's any reward of relevance behind this DKC.
I mean, not that White Spear is that much of an experience rush anyway.
Yeah, so about this moon, and it not having anything that our runners need. Magma Key, again, not what our runners need. Just no key items of relevance for our runners. A hook not required technically, so you could have gone to the moon, cleared it out. You would have been abjectly disappointed, but you'd have had a Magma Key.
Yeah, at this point, we're 3 checks in, and we're 0 for 3 on anything of real meaning. I mean, that Stardust Rod is nice for Fu, and again, like you said, Adamant Armor is great, but none of this really puts you forward objective-wise, so still a lot to be done. I mean, apart from the altar that you had to do, which was the Pigtail, so it was required. So if there's any item you're getting out of a required thing that's not what you're looking for, I guess Pigtail is probably a best-case scenario, because it is just going to make this even better down the line. But yeah, this has not been going very well.
Yeah, like the fights are going very well for McBain, but the rewards are just not what he's after. And we do see here goes Nitzy taking on that Antlion. So this is one of those situations where if he is able to get through this fight and it has value, I don't want to say he's ahead because I think he's still in a bit of a world of hurt here, but it definitely helps close that gap. Antlion being very rude to Rydia here. That is a very fast spot, but looks like Nitzy is going to dip out. While McBain at the Ogopogo spot has found the Officer and Soldiers and is on 10 key items, so is going to be able to get double XP here. Is going to go through and it looks like stone them, so not going to go for life glitches or anything. Just going to try to get through this fight as quick as possible.
Yeah, I wonder if his thinking too is like, I could spend a little bit of extra time getting some experience here, but I've also been checking and finding nothing. Maybe I should just rush through this to try to make sure I'm not losing any time.
Yeah, and it makes sense because he's come up empty on a lot of these checks so far and continues to do so. You don't reset this. You want the XP. It all helps in the end. A Moonveil is nice, but that means that if this Crystal Sword altar doesn't have anything, the entire bottom of the moon is effectively haunted. Yes, you get an Adamant Armor. Yes, you get a Moonveil. Yes, you get some nice shiny stuff. But nothing that helps you progress to win the game directly. You have the power already. You don't need more.
Yeah, at this point, if Nitzy ends up taking something of a gamble here, and it pays off, like McBain has already spent, I would estimate, around like 10 to 15 minutes getting nothing. So now that's not to say Nitzy won't do the same checks depending on what direction he's given, but you know, this has definitely opened the door a little bit for a potential comeback if the right plays are made.
Yeah, basically if the moon is faded, or if like the value is more of a top-down situation where you go like Cave Bahamut into Murasame into Crystal Sword Altar. If that's where the value is on the moon, Nitzy can forego anything on the bottom of the moon and at least make up those checks. Looks like he is going to go after Dwarf Castle on Nitzy's side. So we know that this is not a check that has progression, but does have an edge, which could certainly help. We have a free fight. I mean, although most things are free at this point with a Crystal Sword Adamant Cecil. Crystal Sword Avenger Cecil. But
it's
this
kind
is
of in the theme too that it's been a lot of like free fights with no rewards, so we'll see if this changes that.
Yeah, lots of free stuff with shiny rewards of very little relevance. So yeah, see, we have Leviathan being learned on Nitzy's side as well. Spent the money to learn Leviathan, which means Rydia may be sticking around a bit longer than expected. Finding a free ninja sword, a blizzard spear, so some decent loot here in Dwarf. And let's see if McBain finally gets some pay dirt on this end. An apple.
0 for 5. The entire LST not leading you to anything objective-wise, so that just leaves us Cave Bahamut now.
Yeah, I'm just going to use this as the perfect segue to thank Niabari, our restreamer today, for rolling this gem of a moon. Well done, Niabari, and thank you for Xenocap for not falling asleep while not being able to push buttons because, or relevant buttons, I should say, because, Niabari decided not to put things in the seed on the moon.
Hey, they got to push one button. There was one.
That's fair. There was the Magma Key and the Pigtail, I know.
Oh, sorry, yeah, you're right, there were two. My mistake. We were also asleep that we were like, Magma Key, that's not, no, that doesn't even count. Come on.
But yeah, also thank you to the runners, of course, Nitzy and McBain, putting on a great show for you. getting to see some varying strategies, some rudeness here, so great job to them as well. And of course, CS Radical, your first tournament match you're getting to do comms for, and thank you for being such a great co-commentator so far.
Absolutely, it's been a blast working with you thus far, and yeah, make sure you give those two runners their support because they deserve it after this kind of early seed that we saw, which was just an absolute nightmare.
And unfortunately, just impaled him here at the Cave Bahamut spot, which I guess does still leave my dream of a wyvern somewhere on the giant. That would not be our runner's dream, mind you, just my dream. But yeah, the longer we go without seeing a wyvern, the better chance we have for it to be super rude somewhere else.
Well, that's a shame on Nitzy's end. Literally just buying Leviathan for that Rydia and then having to yeet her out to get that edge in.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to. Like, that's just how good Edge is, especially when you're rocking all of these wonderful swords for him. You have the back row with the full moon, etc. So,
and that moon is 0 for 6. Oh man!
Wow. I mean, there were 3 key items up there: the Magma Key, the Pinktail, and the Adamant Rock. But holy moly, if Nitzy stays on Earth, we have a race, y'all. Gonna be behind a couple levels, gonna be a little bit behind a Fusoya, but this is pretty wild that with an Earth Crystal, a Baron Key, a Tower Key, a Luca Key, a Pan, a Rat Tail, all floating out there, none of them are on the moon. Wild.
And it really begs to ask the question, is Harp starting a really massive chain here, or you have to go through 2 really tough fights in the Fey March? Either option is probably not the favorite of runners for different reasons. Although I'd say the Harp one it's a little less stressful.
Well, I mean, Harp is starting to look really good right now. Harp is generally an okay check on this flag set anyway, but my oh my, like, you don't expect it to be what is likely this relevant. It's almost impossible for the Harp not to harbor some sort of value.
Yeah, because at this point, that would just leave us Harp, Keyless Tower, and the 2 Fey March bosses. So, 25% to really get that chain started, your odds are getting really low of not making a good decision now.
Yeah, and there is the Harp play from McBain. I know it's going to come as a shock to some, but I think this is a very good play here, very sound. It routes in well with the rest of the seed because you don't really want to do Keyless Tower before you have the Tower Key from a routing perspective. You don't really want to do that Fey March because it's still a pain, even with the Adamant Armor. It's slow. You have Antlion who counters everything, and you have Baigan who's just rude. So I kind of like this play. You hit Luca, you hit the Pan, you hit Rat Tail, any of those key items. Kind of makes sense. You get a little punished if Earth Crystal is somewhere else and you have to double dip Troya, but barring exactly that, I think this is correct because you're already above ground too. It's just less flight time.
Yeah, essentially almost anything that McBain can get from this pickup is potentially on the overworld. So you might as well stick to what's going to be in your general vicinity. Because, I mean, you get Rat Tail, you get Earth Crystal, you get Baron Key. They're all pretty close by to you. So it's not nearly as difficult as, going all the way down. Like, Seal Cave is a possibility as well that this could come out, or even Tower. But generally speaking, actually, yeah, Pan's not on there as well. I just realized that. So it's really like a 50-50 split between something that's going to keep you on the overworld or something that's going to start you chaining underground.
Yeah, it's wild key item distribution is what it is. And Nitzy did take a couple fights here. So I wonder if we are going to get a moon play from Nitzy or if we are going to get some more Earth checks. But either way, I think because we have a Twin Harp check coming up, we're supposed to be quiet, something about contractual obligations. So, okay, bye. All right, so that was some Super Mario RPG minecart ride, I believe. And there is a rat tail for McBain as well. I do know that Comlamity put a ton of work into that particular track to make it work right. Spent a number of hours on it, so actually glad to hear that one.
It is a
Very
great
well
track,
done.
and I've never heard that version before, and that sounded fantastic. I loved it. So unfortunately, you had to leave your new home in the minecart and come back to the trash can to get back in here. So with the rat tail, that leaves us still a bunch of options left. I mean, which one would you hope for the most? I guess probably Tower of Zod, because it is the closest one, but Baron would also open up 2 objectives. So, either way.
Well, at this point, the kind of odd thing is the rat tail was one of the last things you wanted to see because it is not a required key item. So it means you have to chase even more. Yeah, that was just not ideal. And the rat tail turns into the tower key. So that is at least required. We will now see McBain do both the top and the top of tower and the super cannon room. I would imagine. I think it would be awfully cheeky to do a half tower here. So I think we'll see the full tower. And McBain probably going to find the majority of his remaining checks at this point. It just remains to be seen, is that Fame Arch required or not?
Yeah, and Nitzy following suit, doing the this is the exact same thing, going to be seeing that rat tail as well, which will lead to tower. So we might start seeing some parity again, albeit with a far different grind in McBain's set, having basically a 20 to 25 minute run on the moon that lasted essentially nothing.
Yeah, what would be very interesting here is if Nitzy does stay on the Earth and is able to kind of have check parity, maybe do the Giant, maybe do the Murasame Altar after. If he can fade the right thing, like if there's 1 or 2 spots he can fade, go ahead and do so. But I guess we have more music, so we should stop talking or keep talking.
And we're back once again. The rat tail in Nitzy's possession. We are all musiced out for a little while with a really fantastic track again, the minecart ride from Super Mario RPG. And now we'll see where the chain takes us going forward. McBain, I didn't even see what he got at top of tower, if Chat can help me with that, because I was completely mesmerized by that music.
Luca key.
So that's another item.
A required one, in fact.
Who knew that, 6 checks on the moon just weren't the smartest play, and just keep playing on the overworld.
I think in the vast majority of seeds, it's a very good play. I think this is just a classic case of rando gonna rando.
Yeah.
That it was very defensible from McBain, the route that he took. Just didn't work in this exact situation.
Yeah, I mean, you take the party that McBain had, like, who's not going to the moon and taking 6 checks, which are going to get you even higher experience that preps you for the Giant down the road. Like, it all makes sense. You would have hoped to have had something else to add on to it, like a Baron Castle, anything to really justify that run. But even after all of that, we at least know that McBain's still in decent shape, but you know, you wonder what's going through McBain's head, thinking, "Wow, I just lost 20 plus minutes potentially here. What's nitzy been up to?"
Yeah, and part of this also just speak to just how good McBain is. That he has completed an entire moon, has gotten through anything that he could do that's not on the blue planet, basically, and is still actually ahead on checks on the blue planet. Is now up a tower and a tower key check as well. So that gap that he built up early is able to keep leveraging that going forward just by having those levels in the power overwhelming now. So unfortunately for nitzy, he needed to really get the party started on Earth and really needed for like the Fey March to pay out. And the door has just been unfortunately closing and now is pretty much closed on nitzy here by McBain.
Yeah, that Baron Key basically puts a dent in it now.
Yeah, we're looking for exactly an Earth Crystal, and then go mode is McBain's. So is done with Objective 7, is done with Objective 5, completing that Super Cannon room. We'll soon be done with the Sealed Cave, but we do have that massive chain from the Harp, which led to the Rat Tail, the Super Cannon room, the Baron Key, all of it just coming together, which makes you think, is that Baron Key now going to have that Earth Crystal as well? Is it all just going to be fully chained?
Yeah, and you said earlier just, you know, how good McBain clearly is to get to this point with even that massive buffer in on the moon. It also speaks to, again, as we saw with our runners at the beginning, just how difficult the seed was to start, that even for some of the better runners that we have here, it can still be a struggle. And as we're seeing nitzy having to basically go through a lot of chests here on the tower to try to make this party that he's concocted, you know, work out a little bit better, just hoping for some decent items. It just shows you, like, if the randomness doesn't work out in your favor right off the bat, it can either pump you up really ahead of your opponent, or it can put you so far behind, and it's really no fault of your own. It's just kind of how it works.
Yeah, just the snowball nature. One of those kind of rich getting richer situations in this particular seed, especially, that McBain was able to get that early power spike by getting through Ordeals, getting through that back attack Ogopogo. But then also is able to go to the moon and find that Fusoya, where nitzy did not go to the moon and find that Fu. So just a lot of the decisions from McBain came up very well in his favor on this seed. And kudos to him for playing it very well. Not over yet, of course. Because of things like this. Danger, danger. This is 66 agility of Wyvern blarging, and you are not anchored properly. This is a nightmare situation because McBain needs to drop the battle speed all the way down and hope that he has someone slow enough, like a Fu or a Palom, that Edge and Cecil, at least one of them, can get a Star Veil off. I think he's okay. I think Cecil's RA1, Relative Agility 1, but I'm not certain here. It might be just Relative Agility 2. We shall see.
So it's actually like on the dot 66 agility in this fight?
I think it's 66 here, 66 at Asura, 69 for Zeromus, and then 89 for Elements are the four fastest spots.
Well, then forgive me for the pun, but given the fact that we're in the metaphorical and literal underworld, this is more like a 666 fight.
It is, and yeah, that is battle speed 6, unable to get the Veil off. This might be the only possible way that McBain is blocked out from completing a check here. May have to go and leave and come back. So we have 20 agility on Fu, 47 on Cecil. That means that Cecil is not Relative Agility 1, he's Relative Agility 2. I don't think this is doable with two people at Relative Agility 2. I think you need one at Relative Agility 1 and one at Relative Agility 2 to make it work. So I just don't know that there's going to be the requisite number of people queuing for this Star Veil to get off.
Well, worst case scenario, you still have Baron to go back and check, so there's other things to keep you busy, but yeah, you'd really want to get this done now.
Yeah, and going center slot Cecil there, that's unfortunately never going to happen. You all saw how fast that was. And McBain is going to, I don't know if you want to call it a walk of shame, a stride of pride, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, McBain is having to back out of this Luca cave and is going to have to go find himself an anchor or some way better through this.
Yeah, more of a path of frustration at this point. Just thinking, man, I've been on such a roll and I get hard stopped here.
Yeah.
You're not fretting yet because you have basically almost the rest of your objectives to do now, but you're sitting there thinking, like, man, I could be on easy street right now and I got this thing to think about still.
Well, this is where you just honestly you route in Baron first, and you see if you can just pick up your anchor while routing in Baron, and you don't take a total L, you just take like a half a loss, rather than stopping somewhere else. And it does look like that's what McBain is doing, and I really like this play. I think in the moment this is very hard to do because you naturally get fairly tilted when things don't go your way, and that's a situation where he's literally soft locked. It is not a situation he can get through with his party as is. So maybe hunting for a curse ring as well, but I like doing Baron here to try to get a character check to find an anchor while making progression as opposed to taking an extra trip to Mysidia. I know it seems like a minor thing, but that's like a 30-second time save. And a chat pointing out the curse rings in Eblin, I don't know that McBain ever checked that shop.
No,
I
he did not. don't
know if McBain knows that. Nitzy knows that, but I don't think McBain does.
And the other thing that could help too is even if you don't find an anchor in Baron, if you happen to find the Earth Crystal in one of these two checks, well, there's another objective and another chance at 2 possible anchors. So there's plenty of chances here by taking this Baron run now. And it just makes sense too. It's 2 objectives. Like, you're just getting more work done in the face of, not getting one yet. But realistically, it's not the biggest. It's not really like you're not feeling too bad about it. Unless you're thinking you're behind because of those 6 moon checks, as we saw earlier, but we know that that's nowhere near the case still.
Yeah, it's still going to weigh on your mind because you've done a lot that you haven't had to do, and now you've gotten stymied by a boss at a spot that you would think you'd be relatively safe to complete. But at the same time, you also have to be cognizant that if you've done this and you've had some issues, your opponent likely has too. Very few people play air quote perfect free enterprise. In fact, the majority don't. There's maybe 1 or 2 people that do. So you have to be thinking, like, if I struggled with this, most likely my opponent did too.
Then another question that we have to think about as we go as well is, obviously we have 2 key item checks here. We still have the Seal Cave that we haven't finished. If we do find Earth Crystal, that's another check. If none of those fade out, like, you all of a sudden have, as we saw earlier in the Fey March, those 2 fights with King Baigan and Queen Antlion over there. So there's still potential for things taking a little bit longer than we think, even with the party that McBain's running, which is very power overwhelming in most cases.
Yeah, it's a very strong party, but there, as that Wyvern has shown us, there are situations where you can still have problems. This CPU fight will not be a problem for McBain. This is going to be pretty easy breezy. Could Zerk here if he wanted to get frisky. Could Meteo. Could do a lot of things. Nitzy running down the tower was so hyped about finding that Luca key, nearly forgetting that Super Cannon is an objective, and we'll be very happy to see also that there's a Baron key from this. So very good for Nitzy to go back and complete that check.
And you would almost imagine given the shape of Nitzy's party, you wonder if Baron would be his first thought rather than Seal Cave, which is what McBain went with.
I think Sealed Cave is just a natural route because it's underground already. But we'll see what Nitzy ends up doing. If he purchased a Cursed Ring, though, he's going to be able to get through Sealed Cave very easily. And I think that Tella may have a Cursed Ring on for Nitzy. So that would be a benefit for him. Obviously falling a little behind on like the Baron check that's going to come up. But being able to one-shot that Luca key is kind of the catch-up mechanism that he needed.
Now, in McBain's case, if he doesn't end up taking the look for curse ring round, what's it gonna really take at this point? Because you know way more than I would about this. Like, what would he have to do in his party shape to actually get things online? Is it just finding like a low anchor now, or is there something else that he'd have to maybe look for?
Any base level character not named Edge or Fusoya will be good enough to get the job done. So it could be a dupe Cecil. Cecil starts at 13 agility, which isn't great, but it's good enough in this situation. Fu starting at 20 is bad. Edge starting at 23 is bad. Anyone else is fine because they normally start between like 4 and 10. Even Kane starts at 11. You would happily snap up a Kane here. Eddie is a Sand Ruby. So yeah, a whole lot of options here. You just don't want to see a dupe Fu or a dupe Edge. That's it.
What about a dupe Edward?
That'd be fine. Yeah, Kane is fine here. That's 11 agility. That'll get the job done. You pick up Kane, you swap out Palom. Yep, and perfectly done by McBain. Recognizing what he needs to do here to be able to take on that Luca Cave. So again, very heads up, routing in this Baron check to pick up an anchor while making progression.
Now, because of the agility at this current point with this base level Kane, I would imagine that even if he finds Earth Crystal here at Baron Castle check, he would just immediately go down to Seal Cave anyway, because you want to keep that agility where it's at.
Well, I mean, you can always just off a character and maybe even pick up a better anchor while going through Earth Crystal. Because the one issue with having Kane as your anchor is Fusoya is not relative agility 1 to Kane. Now, we do know, based on that Baron key coming up empty, that the Fame Arch is required. We don't know which fight, but one of them is required.
It may even be both. Oh, wait, hang on.
No, just one. They could both have key items. One could be Pan, one could be Earth Crystal, but only one is technically hard required. Good seed, though. Good stuff. I like it. You get to see everything. McBain's probably not terribly happy we get to see everything, but I'm happy we get to see everything.
I almost put my foot in my mouth twice because I almost went, well, how do we know that Seal Cave? Oh, right, you get to see the item first.
I think it was, what, a white shirt or something?
Yeah, it was a white shirt.
Nice t-shirt, but yeah. Looks like we're going for some Silkweb sneaks on McBain's side. Like maybe trying anything he can to think of. I mean, the Kane's going to be enough to get the job done here, but thinking of anything he can to get this all taken care of. And we see Nitzy making the dive down to Luca here, so going to have his encounter with Wyvern. So far, I believe the count is, what, Wyvern 2, Wyvern 3, Runner 0, something like that. Let's see if Nitzy adds to the Runner total or if Wyvern adds to the Jerkbird total.
And like we said earlier, the door seemingly is shut at this point, so at this point, Nitzy maybe can at least pull one race out by getting through the Wyvern faster than McBain did, so, you know, there might be one thing to give here.
Yeah, I mean, Nitzy has the Baron key. We know the Earth Crystal's in Fey March, so as long as Nitzy stays on Earth, it's not the worst situation, but that is not a cursed Tella, so that's going to have to be a second attempt. So we're going to have to slap that cursed ring on, going down to Wyvern standard time. Oh, do we not have a cursed ring? I wonder if Nitzy didn't buy a cursed ring. I know that he saw it in the Eblin shop, but may not have purchased one.
That's very possible.
Hopefully this Edge is fast enough, or this Cecil's fast enough to get through this, but we do have both runners converging on the white shirt. I mean, the Luca Cave. And we'll see who is able to make it through this Wyvern first. We do have a Veil up on McBain's side, or at least queued. Yep, Veil successfully up with Cecil. A second Veil with Fu. I don't think the third one fires with Edge here, but that's fine. Two Veils up. This is going to be perfectly fine for McBain, and he's going to be through. Nitzy may be in a bad way here as well, not having access to that curse ring. Might need to do some agility shenanigans. 12 is a little high for Tella, 19 for Porum, 23 for Cecil, and 29 for Edge. So Edge is 2 agility off relative agility 1. If there's a ninja hat that can be put on Edge and then put Cecil in slot 3 with Edge in slot 2, which is on the top, you'd be able to get 1 veil off. But it would require some sort of agility manipulation, either a crystal ring or a ninja hat, and that would solve the puzzle for Nitzy. But it's a pretty dicey puzzle to solve if you're not intimately familiar with the agility system.
Yeah, and you just got to feel really for Nitzy, you know, finally getting underground and getting on a bit of a roll and then falling right into this and still having just another thing to keep smacking away at you. So we'll see if this third attempt does any better, but as it stands right now, like, I feel so bad for Nitzy the way that this run's gone for him.
Yeah, and unfortunately this is just going to be worse with the Porum in the middle instead of the Tella. There's going to be no actions that are going to queue up here that are going to do any good, so... and as Chad is pointing out, the Murasame could just come off of Edge, and that would be the extra agility that you'd need on the Edge. Looks like Nitzy is going to reset, maybe opting out entirely here, and is going to go back to the pre-Lucas save. Might head over to Eblin, or might just do Baron as well. We shall see, since Nitzy does know where that cursed ring is. But meanwhile, McBain, exhausting all other options, is on his way down to the Fey March, and we shall see who has what. Is it Baigen? Is it Antlion? What I know it's not is the Moon, and for Nitzy's sake, I hope he doesn't go to the Moon. I hope this is just a character check. Maybe a shop check.
Is that you almost feel like it's an inevitability, just because the sheer amount of other things you could be doing other than all the stuff that's just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, I do wonder also if this is an anchor pickup, and it just so happens that he hasn't launched the big whale. Wow, words are hard, y'all. And it's one of those where he's just going to pick up an anchor, and you just have to do this cutscene to get to that anchor.
Xenocat making the point, though, that you have the Mur altar to do. That's going to be the real issue, is that once you start with Murasame, does that make you suddenly go away, or does that just suddenly put you like, I might as well do everything, which, as we know, is a fruitless endeavor.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It looks like Nitzy is shopping armor shops. Maybe didn't track where that cursed ring was, or maybe mistracked it as Mysidia instead of Cave Eblin, but looks like he is headed to Silvera, maybe going to try to play with this shop. So he knows he's seen the cursed ring, but I don't think remembers where at this point. And there's the pan from Antlion. So this is super awkward for McBain, because he doesn't know if he's supposed to chase the pan or take out this Baigen. That was the worst possible item combination to have found here, was the pan on Antlion, and to do it first. So no problem here, I don't think, getting through this Baigen. Just kind of humorous that after all this, still getting trolled a little bit.
Basically on autopilot at this point, just slashing away. This could take a little bit longer than you'd like to, though, just because of recover, but...
Well, this... Oddly enough, I'm curious the last time McBain saved. Because if you take out the body, the arms deal non-elemental, non-mitigated damage. Baigen at Leviathan can actually cause a wipe to an Adamant Armor Crystal Sword Cecil with the wrong RNG. Now, that didn't happen here, but it's always a worry that it could have happened. And the pan from Antlion it is.
Now it just becomes, is it at Sylph or is it Sheila 2?
I mean, at this point, it's Sheila 2. We're going to do everything.
Yeah, why not?
So
So
let us
this one-
see.
Oh, sorry, you can go ahead. I was going to ask the question because we are going to be preparing for Giant, I guess, at this point. What's left on the table that could even give McBain any real issues? Is there really anything that could cause a lot of problems at this point?
Magus Sisters is out. Bygon's out.
I think all the sparkles are off the map.
D-Lunars would be around, but Crystal Sword eats D-Lunars. I guess D-Lunars technically could cause a wipe. Val wouldn't be a problem. Golbez would be annoying, but Adamant Armor, Crystal Sword makes it free. I don't think there's anything at the element spot. Golbez at the CPU spot, if you don't Zerk early enough, could cause an issue, and there is the Earth Crystal. So no Sheila 2 today, but we'll get to do everything else. McBain is going to do the Giant first. Okay. This is a little bit awkward on routing because you're going to want to land the airship outside of Troya to do the Earth Crystal, but that's then going to put you back in Baron, and you're going to have to swag Chocobo over to... we'll worry about that later. Future McBain problems.
I mean, unbeknownst to him, he can take as much time as he wants with a little bit of extra airship work because he's more than in the driver's seat at this point.
Yeah, he's definitely got this taken care of. But it's just a matter of execution at this point. So hopefully he's able to cleanly get through everything. And, you know, parking problems aside, as Chad is pointing out, I think this is well in McBain's hands. A tough seed, one that took some expert navigation early on. And he definitely did navigate it better than nitzy. Not to say nitzy didn't do a good job navigating it. This seed was just set up where neither runner is going to feel great. It's one of those where, based on everything, where everything was, and based on your progression points, just very awkward to play, very awkward to consider optimal routing, and definitely one where avoiding tilt and avoiding frustration. If our runners were able to do that, kudos to them, because this is a doozy.
There's a Calbrana. I assume that's not going to be much of an issue. I've never faced Calbrana in that spot, but I imagine it's not going to be too difficult.
The only way it gets even potentially difficult is if you forget that the back dolls have 12,000 health apiece, and they actually don't even die to a Meteo. They just have an inordinate amount of HP because of how the split works here. So you could end up with a big doll, but it's very unlikely that that's going to be a problem.
I mean, the way that this seed has gone, as we were just talking earlier about just all the weird little, not mistakes, but like diversions, McBain, it literally just comes down to two things. It was finding that crystal sword in one of the other chests in the Eblin Castle, and then just taking that darkness crystal trip to find Fu. Yeah. Like, you imagine that if nitzy even diverts slightly and takes one of those two things, things are so much better for him, but because just of making those calls, which sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, it just becomes one of those runs where it's not really your fault at this point. You just don't know where stuff is, and you don't know that all the help is on the way if you would just check these couple of spots.
Yeah, and another heads-up play there by McBain, knowing that the back dolls do not have the boss bit, so you can hourglass them and make so you won't see big doll. That's a good play on McBain's part. We do see some veils up on Nitzy's side. 3 veils, everyone is safe. Tella has been put to sleep, and Nitzy is going to get through this and get his white shirt and complete objective number 3. So very well done to Nitzy, and we'll see if McBain is presented with anything nasty here at the end for CPU.
I just want to talk about one thing I just saw. I did not know that Calbranus had different animations coming out of elements. It looked like 2 of them exploded, one of them went underwater. Like, what did I just see?
You saw the actual elements dissipating, but it was dolls. So, like, you would see fire and water and all of that. But, it's weird.
Can you tell I don't do Giant that much?
Can you tell I've done it more than I wanted to?
Well, you are the D-Machine captain here, so...
So Val here actually is slightly scary. If Cecil takes more than like 1 or 2 more hits, but yeah, okay, he's fine. Cecil's fine, McBain is fine. That's the last possible pain point that McBain could have faced. I guess Golbez at exactly Zot 2, if like your controller disconnects and a bunch of viruses come out, could be a problem, but yeah, that's probably gonna wrap this one up for McBain. Still obviously has to complete the Tower of Zot and then defeat the final boss. But honestly, the Tower of Zot's going to take longer than Zeromus at this point, given the power that McBain has and the levels, especially on that Cecil. I've seen quad 9s once from Cecil this tournament, and that was in one of my own races. We have a chance of seeing quad 9s from a zerked up Cecil on McBain's side. That's how overtuned this Cecil's going to be.
McBain opting to change out Kane for Sid. I imagine the agility is just even a little bit less there, so it makes more sense to.
Yeah, it puts Fusoya back at relative agility 1, so it's slightly better. It's probably not required in any way, but it's good enough. McBain is going to land the airship in front of Troya. Will have to swag Chocobo back from here. But meanwhile, Nitzy is going to head over to Baron, having now completed Objective 3, which is the Sealed Cave, and Nitzy's going to have Objective 1 and 4 out of the way soon enough. And making the walk up the Tower of Zot, McBain, if I were in his shoes, I would be looking at the race room like, please don't, please don't, please don't. I don't want to see a dot done. And I do wonder if on Nitzy's side, you would be thinking maybe if a dot done comes in, it would be a sense of relief. In a sense that you'd be like, all right, I know this was a struggle, I can relax now and just finish this out, or whatever it would be that you do with the seeds. So I think both runners have put on a great race for us so far, and I am excited to see the end of this. I want to see how much damage this Cecil is going to do on McBain's side to Zeromus. That's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and even though like we know that there's no pressure on McBain, like we've mentioned many times on the stream over the course of things, like the fact that he full cleared the moon to nothing, you know, even with how well the rest of the seed has gone for him since, like, it's still a bit of internal pressure in your own mind, thinking like, oh man, like what if Nitzy just checked, you know, the Murasame and basically like kind of noped out and just decided to grab the admin armor, maybe try something else, and all of a sudden just got really far ahead. So like you said, staring at that race room, just praying you don't see a typing start.
Yeah, I mean, and in McBain's shoes, again, like you also have to think of it though, if your opponent routed it the same, do you think you're just faster check for check? Like going moon would have been fairly conventional and honestly fairly conservative route-wise, because you have this overpowered, overtuned party. Why not go play on the moon? You have an objective up there. It's unlikely everything is on Earth, that you're going to hit some sort of pay dirt. So I think you'd have to be confident, like other than the stumble on Ordeals, and it wasn't much of one, and a little bit of an issue with that Wyvern, like McBain's largely played very well. So we're going to be looking at go mode and everything completed, including a hook and a giant, well under 2 hours. Like, you still have to be happy with how you played given that time.
Yeah, somebody who struggles with that 2-hour setup, seeing this run has been really eye-opening for just how the proper setup and just how like just your full knowledge of the game can just come back from even like the most stressful beginning as we've seen here.
Yeah, and with that, the Ruby is down in elements, so that is going to be objective number 2 completed for McBain. That is going to be all 7 objectives, and getting the crystal is going to be right around the 147 mark. Now, again, very efficient, very well run by McBain. Just going to see where his final time falls in. And meanwhile, Nitzy is taking out the Baron basement first, and then going to be moving on to liberate Baron Castle. and we'll see where he opts to go from there. Maybe pick up a new anchor, take that cane, head back down to Luca Cave. Or no, he did get through Luca Cave, I'm sorry. Head down to the Fey March and take all that on.
Yep, very impressive run from McBain as we're seeing what probably will be a sub 2-hour run here. Nitzy starting to really get some work done now, so both of our runners putting on a heck of a show today, and albeit one getting a little bit more of a power overwhelming hit with that Fu and that Crystal Sword, but both runners have done a fantastic job dealing with, quite honestly, the incredible seed that our restreamer Neobari ran for us. And since I'm already shouting out names, Xenocat also on the tracker today. Good job to everybody on the team, you as well, Possumus. We're getting close to getting our first completion of our race.
Yeah, and I believe that as we near the completion here, we keep getting these flags in chat, and with you being such a fantastic commentary partner, and also getting to do your first tournament comms, I think there is a question that you are contractually obligated to ask with relation to said Z flags in chat. What would that question be, CS Radical?
I know I've done this a couple of times. I'm positive though. I think I've learned it now. I think the question is, whose butt are we going to kick tonight? And does it have a hat? That's a shot for my guy I had, folks. I had to.
I mean, it could have a hat. Could have a butt. It could have pants. Any number of things. But for McBain and for Nitz, I wonder if maybe it has a defense sword, given that that's their group.
Well, if it has a sword, we'll know for sure. But you want to talk about contractually obligated, I have to talk about hats on this stream. That is my real contract.
That's fair. You got to represent your group. I am hoping that we don't get Moonomus. Even as a member of the Full Moon group, I hate that sprite. It scares me. It actually terrifies me. It's nightmare fuel. So even though that's one of the few with Moon in it, but that's okay.
So I guess otherwise, to give yourself some sort of representation, I guess it would have to be a full body sprite.
Yeah, that's fine. That works. But it looks like we have Nitzy taking out those guards, Zeromus about to show the true colors, and the true colors today are just some Pokemans.
But it is a full body, so you get yours. I don't get a hat. There's no sword, unfortunately.
Maybe it's a psychic hat, and you just can't see it.
I mean, I'm sure there you can buy a Mewtwo hat somewhere. So it exists in hats at some juncture. Just not in this right.
Fair enough. I do want to thank Porum for her contribution to the party, being a magnet for said nuclear weaponry from Mewtwo. So job well done, Porum.
I'm very happy that you were able to spend just those couple of seconds to praise your favorite character.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Zeromus doing the Lord's work there. Looks like we have the Zerkers well on their way for McBain. We have a Cure 4 coming out. Just a safety Cure 4 here for McBain. Not going to be too much of a challenge at this point. The levels that have been attained from the Giant, the hits coming out from Cecil. The only question for me is, like we've seen an 8K hit. I want to see bigger numbers. 84, it's close. 68, we're getting lots of 86s and 68s, which are good. They're really good numbers, but we want 9s. We want to see 9s. Come on, Cecil. Oh, there's a 79.
There's a 9 in it.
He's listening like Kane performs, very averagely. All right, well, we're going to have to settle for an 83-36 kill shot there. That is McBain finishing in an official time of 151.46 for a full clear of the entire seed. Celebratory dance from Fusoya as well while Mewtwo crumbles. GG's to McBain, moving to 3-2, keeping their bracket chances alive. And we will see if we can get McBain in for an interview. And actually, I believe that dinging was McBain joining us. GG's to you, McBain.
Thank you.
So, that Ordeals.
Yeah, that was something.
Did you get the feeling as you were pushing your way through that given the way that things could have been going if nitzy had, say, gone through that fight faster, were you in a state of thinking you were maybe behind the entire way, or were you not too like that stressed out about it, thinking that, okay, well, because of like my crystal sword and food pickups later, I'm kind of keeping a good pace or bridging that gap?
Yeah, but with how we have on the overworld getting to Ordeal, I was like, he probably has the same thing as me, unless he found an error in a row, and that wouldn't have maybe given maybe only 2 minutes lead, so I wasn't too concerned about that.
And once you made the decision to go to the moon, like, was that predicated on finding that Fusoya, the crystal sword Cecil? Was that just, I have the power, I can go do the moon?
Yeah, basically that was it. I almost did I was thinking about maybe doing the giant early, but I said I'm gonna check the character first, and then I just have everything to keep going, so I'm just gonna keep going.
And kind of a follow-up to that, when you started clearing that moon and you kept finding things that were not objectives and not progression, were you ever getting nervous at that point? Like, oh, if Nitz stayed on Earth, I'm in trouble, or, kind of what was your mindset? Because you were clearing them very efficiently.
Yeah, I was a little nervous about that, because I mean, Twin Harp is always my downfall, so I'm thinking if he did similar to me and instead of going to moon, did the Twin Harp, maybe let's keep going then.
Absolutely. And kind of the last major point for both of y'all where there were a little bit of struggles, that Wyvern at Sealed Cave. What was your mindset? Kind of take us through like what your prep was and what your initial reaction to it was, and then how you tried to recover from it and the choices you made afterwards.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, at first, can I do this? I just tried something, and then I realized there's no point in just banging my head on that wall, because that's what I did in my first game. It cost me heavily, so I was like, no, I'm just gonna go. I have Baron to do. There's a character. No matter who it is, it's probably gonna fix this.
Yeah,
So-
and that was something we had pointed out, that it was very heads up to route in the character check there with the objectives. So I thought that was very nicely done on your part. Go ahead, CS Radical.
I was just going to say, the last real domino left to fall was obviously your Fey March bosses. Was it basically becoming like an almost last minute, like last on the list thing to do until it was really forced at that point? I guess with Baigan and Antline, it kind of diverts you to go, nah, I'll deal with that when there's literally nothing else.
Yeah, that's basically it.
All right. Well, with this victory today, you do move to 3-2, putting you much more comfortably into contention for at least a second or third spot to play into brackets. Gonna need some help from some others, I think, to confirm that, but I believe that puts you in a good spot in your group. Any matches you're looking forward to remaining in your group to call out, or anyone to shout out? I think this was your last race, correct?
Yeah, that was my last one.
Okay. So any kind of hopes of who you might see in a tiebreaker, or any, kind of thoughts, confident going into it, a little scared of anyone you hope to see in brackets, if you're fortunate enough, and we know you're skilled enough to make it, but fortunate enough to make it through?
Yeah, in my group, I mean, anyone, they're all good. And I'd rather not. If I could not know who my opponent is, I think it would be even better. That way I just play my game and don't worry about anything. But I'm gonna know, so. And for the brackets, I just want, if you can give me like the best. I want to face the best. That's what I want. So give me anyone.
That's a really good attitude to have because you got to face the best at some point anyway. So,
Exactly.
if you're gonna, might as well get them out of the way early or get them out of the way often. However it is, love that attitude.
Yeah, I love the challenge.
Absolutely.
Exciting.
And we definitely look forward to seeing where that takes you. Obviously, the play-in will be not too long after that, and we'll see how the rest of the bracket hangs out. But yeah, that was a tremendous run. As a newer player, watching you overcome that really bad intro and still get sub 2 hours was really incredible to watch. So thank you very much for giving us a heck of a show today.
Thank you.
And we will let you say anything if you have anyone you want to shout out, anything you want to shout out. Floor is yours, McBain. Congrats again on the win and at least securing yourself at a minimum a tiebreaker race for second place.
Yeah, well, I expect it because I've had the tie in every tournament I've ever been. So, well, why not again?
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again, McBain. GG's, as always, great performance. We love to watch you run, and we definitely appreciate both you and nitzy putting on a great show to us, for us, rather. So with that, we will let you enjoy the rest of your afternoon or evening, and you have yourself a great rest of the tournament, my friend.
Right. Thank you very much.
All right, and that was our victor this afternoon. This morning, afternoon, depending where you are. Roger McBain coming in with a time again of 151.46. nitzy, as y'all may have seen on screen, did decide to forfeit out of this match. Absolutely no shame in that. Things just did not go his way today. A great runner, but just kind of got the short end, and that happens. Rando gonna rando inherently. So GG's to nitzy as well. And yeah, go ahead, CS.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes perfect sense. I mean, you think about the amount of time nitzy still has left too, thinking like, I could go and finish this, but the sheer amount of frustration I imagine too. I don't blame nitzy one bit. That was a really difficult seed to watch, and yeah, you got to feel for nitzy on that. That's just a real tough one to take.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens to all of us. But again, huge thank you to both of our runners today, both McBain and nitzy. Make sure to give them a follow. They put on a heck of a show for you. One last huge thank you to our behind the scenes folks, Neobari on Restream, Xenocat pushing all the buttons, CS Radical doing a great job on your first comms. And make sure, y'all, that you check out everyone who we just mentioned, but also that you check out the new Free Enterprise 2 channel if you haven't had a chance to already. A lot of our tournament races will be on that, as well as RPG Limit Break, our partner channel for some of these races. There is a race coming up, the next scheduled one at 5 o'clock Eastern on RPG Limit Break, so make sure you do catch that match. At this time, we don't have a particularly great raid target due to a number of races going on, so we are going to let everyone head their own way. But before we do, CS Radical, I think I have stolen a little bit too much of the mic, so I'll let you take it from here, friend.
Yeah, thank you so much for being a fantastic co-host. It's been great talking with you. Great job by the rest of the team, and great job to our runners, as we had probably, in my opinion, my favorite race that I've done so far out of all the ones that I've commentated on. This was a really eye-opening race for a newer player to be able to see what a very difficult seed can look like and see how to overcome said seed. And this is something that I hope to take in future runs as we go. But yeah, this has been a great morning and afternoon for me, and I can't wait to see more as we get further down the group stage and into the brackets in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, this has been great. GG's to both our runners, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, as we keep going further here in the group stages.